I'm Edie Lush, and I'm here in the Hub Pavilion, very pleased to be joined by Adéle Naudé Santos. She's the Dean of Architecture and Planning at MIT. Tell me a little bit about what you think is new. What have you come here to Davos with?
Oh, well, you know, first of all, I'm the chairman of the Global Agenda Council on Infrastructure and Urban Development. So, you know, so urban development is what I'm here to talk about. And I, among others, are keenly concerned about the future of urbanism, because a whole number of things have really changed, and we continue to build as if this had not happened. And so, so what has changed? Let's just start with that. I mean, we are building cities of a scale unprecedented. And, you know, in the pipeline, these mega cities, there are at least 10 plus, you know, that I know of in the works. Second thing is simply the pace of development. You know, cities are built whole, which is really a new thing. And, you know, we obviously have a climate change agenda, which we all have to take very seriously. And at the time that we need to reduce our carbon footprint, there's more and more pressure for energy use, as you well know. And then we have a lot of really environmental devastation. It's a combination of all these things, you know, and sort of new ecological agendas, if you will. I would say there are also economic constraints. You know, we can't build the infrastructures we built in the past. So we have to do more with less, and so we have to rethink what it is. I think we have to build for long-term durability. You know, that's part of the sustainability argument. And, you know, we have to be very wise about all of this. Meanwhile, you know, we have the new IT possibilities to help us with managing complexity. But then we also have some very interesting new social agendas, you know, the activists, you know, the Arab Spring. I mean, how can you capture this in ways that are really useful to us, because they'll be there, you know?
If we talk about the mega cities that you mentioned there, where are those primarily going to be located?
Well, China, for example. I mean, that's one of the primary sources. I can't tell you all of them, but certainly India has been talking mega cities, and, you know, it's a trend. And we don't actually know how to plan mega cities truly, to take all of these things into account. It's extremely complex. I think there's another big issue, which is social inequality. And the housing shortage globally is immense. And you can't build futures on that, because cities are economic engines, if you will. And people are only productive when they have a decent place to live. So there's a strong economic agenda, really, for trying to change this. So that is another important thing.
I had somebody in here today, it was very interesting. He was saying that now, in this kind of globalized world, we as people have actually more attachment to the city in which we live than to our country, which is quite an interesting thing. And he said it's very difficult in China, where he lives, in these new cities, for people to have an attachment to their city, because they're basically all the same, the new ones. So
I would like to talk about that for sure, because there's really only one housing typology, which is the high-rise, you know? It's a high-rise tower, the high-rise slab, and at MIT we've done a very serious study looking at the energy use of different housing typologies that are typical in China. And we discovered that, and it's not surprising, that the high-rise tower slab configuration, single use, because, you know, the older communities were all mixed use, is the most energy wasteful of the whole lot. So they're building really the wrong things, the wrong kinds of buildings. And, you know, there's kind of tower sprawl everywhere. If you look at Shanghai, I mean, it's, and these places aren't livable. So, you know, in the end, we have to get back to the whole question of the quality of life. What kind of environments are we honestly building for the future?
what would you like to see? Is there an area or a building or a community that you could point to that you would say, that's what we need?
Well, you know, people are talking more and more about mixed use, much more kind of lower rise, trying to work out density in better ways. You know, you don't want to be dependent on the automobile. And frankly, that's a big issue now. I mean, we've got to find ways that we deal with our mobility in a manner that is clean. So at MIT, for example, we're dealing with or planning and actually prototyping small electric vehicles, you know, and trying to think about mobility on demand, that the ways in which you can actually get access to these, you know, cheaper forms of transportation, frankly, at the one level, that are non-polluting. That is an enormous issue, by the way. And so China is building these highways, and everywhere is actually.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the world is kind of repeating our lifestyle, you know, and the kind of cities that we've built with the automobile, etc. You know, we know are incredibly wasteful. So, you know, it's time to rethink all these agendas.
Adéle, thank you so much for stopping in. That's all we've got time for, but I really thank you very much for coming to Hub Pavilion here in Davos. I'm Edie Lush.